Well, hello everyone and welcome to Diamond Art with Dell. How are we going all today? Hang on, I'll just put these gloves on, safety first. Here we go. That's one. And the other one. Okay, so going to do some resin work today. Look at that, that's better. And I have got some wonderful new resin to try out. I got this one from Harry and Wilma store. I haven't used it before, so I just got some small bottles to try it out. It is an arts resin, so it's ideal for this kind of project, which is some alphabet letters. Now I got this alphabet letter mould from Spotlight, so that's where I grabbed that one from. If I can, I will add links to everything I purchased down below. Now I've got a range of things here on the table, as you can see, from my working tools, which will be some measuring cups. I like this big measuring cup. It's got all the numbers up the side, so I do my main bit in there, and then I can divide it up. I've got a selection of sticks to mix my resin with. Good old paddle pop sticks are ideal. I've also got some of those plastic reusables. I can also use mix up with the smaller pieces with those. They're a bit more flexible, so in the big lot of resin I find a little bit hard for them to stir. So I use the paddle pop sticks for that part. Now this one is a 1-to-1 ratio mix. So I'm just going to mix a large quantity into this big container, and then I'll divide up for the actual project, because we are going to make quite a few little different letters. I've got some plans for these letters, so yeah, we're going to have a bit of fun and make some little individual colours and styles and that so forth for those. Okay, so I'm just mixing up my resin at the moment. As I said, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. That's volume, by the way, too. So you'll have that in that cup. Well, I must have had about 100 ml, I think. So I would have done 50 of each, A, and then 50 of B. Now I'll give this a good stir for about 3 to 5 minutes to make sure that the two compounds are well mixed together until I don't have any more streakiness and it's nice and clear. And I don't stir too fast because I don't want to add too much bubbles in there. So it's a bit of a slow process, but yeah, you make sure you scrape down your sides, etc. as you go, and you're pretty much right. Now once you've done that part, I like to use a little heat mat, this little one here. It's one of the ones you put your little coffee on, and you can put your resin here and it warms up the resin a little bit and pushes all the bubbles up. So that helps just reduce my bubbles in my resin. So while that's doing that for just a minute, you do have to be careful it doesn't cook it too much, but yeah, you can do that as well to help reduce some bubbles. Now I'll show you the kit I got. This one is from Spotlight. It's got nice big letters in it, which is what I wanted. I did purchase another one online and I was very disappointed because the letters were way too small. So this one I could actually see in a brick and mortar store, and I could see the size and I knew exactly what I was sort of getting. It's folded. Well, that's interesting. We'll unstick that. It's a bit stick together and it's a bit folded in the middle. But that's okay because the letters I want to use are up this end of the mould. Get that off there. So I'll be using the far left hand of the mould anyway. I'll be doing A, and I'm planning to do S and Z. So that's what my plans are at the beginning of this pour. The rest look really nice though, so like in the future, if I want to make some more letters, I'm going to have a really nice mould that's got some really nice size about it. And this one has numbers as well, so that's going to be a nice little bonus. If I want to do something like that. I'm not sure what I want the numbers for yet, but you never know down the track. So let's go start mixing our colours for each of the letters that I'm going to make. So the first one I am going to mix up basically the resin for is I'm going to be doing the letter A. And for this one, because the person in mind, I am going to use a lot of gold elements. So I've got some gold foil leaf there. I've got some gold balls there, and or beads, I suppose I should really say. And I've got also all these little fine little creatures and figurines. Well, there's all sorts of shapes in here anyway. Yeah, there's, I think, frogs and horses and gosh knows what else. But I'm going to actually choose a couple of items out of this one so I can place on top of the sort of the resin area, I think, just to give it something a little bit special. Because it's just going to be all gold, I just thought something like this where you had like a little hidden animal or something would be kind of pretty. So where we got there? There is some of them. They're very, very small. They're hard to see what they are. But those ones are cactuses. They're very fidgety. So I think I'll be using some tweezers to help apply these to where I want. But I do like these birds. So I think I'm going to use those. Yeah. So I'll need a couple of those as well, so I'll put them to the side. And I won't mix them in such like I will the rest of it, but I'll add them to the top of the actual pour. Now I'm going to use these very small little jugs. There's some tweezers. I thought I need those. I'm going to use these very small little jugs here to actually mix each, I suppose you say, colour, or in this case all the gold elements, into the resin. You can see it's nice and clear now. I've gotten rid of all my bubbles. And that way I can just wipe these little jugs out each time I change colour for each of the letters. So a little bit of clear resin in there. And now I'll add all the little pieces to make it look pretty. Now I like to actually soak my, I suppose, the little gold elements into the resin. You could float these on top and sort of push it in that way, but I want to give it a really good coating, so I'm actually going to take my gold foils out of here and actually soak them in and stir them through. I find it very difficult to get this out without trying to get on my gloves because it seems to stick to everything as well. So I'm just being very cautious and using some tweezers. As you can see, it's very fine. I'm only using a small amount, but this sheet will break up into the resin when I stir it. So that'll give some nice soft flakes. It won't stay like that. I mean, you can use them as a big piece in your artwork as well. So in it goes. Nice and careful like. Just being careful there. Now I'm going to use one of these little reusable paddles, I suppose, to stir that in. I can wipe these down nice and easily with some baby wipes and do a quick clean while I'm here at the table when I'm using those, and I can reuse those paddles, which is handy. I find that the handle, or it's more the bottom part of the handle where it's a bit narrow, is a bit thin to try and stir large amounts of resin. It seems to bend and I don't get a good stir, so I opt out on the main part, but these kind of jobs it's ideal. Now I'm just adding in the beads there, there are different sizes in that jar, so I sort of just dug around and got some that I thought would fit nicely into the mould. And I'm just going to give them a bit of a stir and a bit of a coat as well of resin. Well, now I'm pretty happy with my little mix of gold flakes and beads in clear resin. So that's going to be the pour for the letter A. And we're going to just pour that straight into the mould now. There we go. Now I'll probably have to give a little bit of encouragement for some of the gold flakes to come out, because they'll probably then the gold balls are sticking to the bottom of the actual pouring container. But because they've got a nice coating of resin, they shouldn't have any bubbles and stuff like that around them. But I will scrape them out and add them in, so they have gone into the resin as well. A little bit of mould adjustments to make sure everything's in its place. As I say, just those little round beads and things, and just putting them where I want. Making sure the edges are clean, especially in the centre there was a little bit of an overspill. So I don't want to let that set and have that having too much sharp resin there where I have to do a clean up. It's much easier just to wipe it now. So I'm just adding on top those little gold birds, the elements that I found. I thought they were quite pretty. So I'm just going to place them here and there on the front section of this letter. Just using the tweezers so that I don't disrupt it too much. I don't want to stir them in, I just want to put them on top and then just give them a little bit of a tap into the resin just to make sure they're in there and set well. So that is all I'm doing for the letter A, is just a nice gold pour. The next one is going to have a few different elements. So I'm now going to use some of these sort of glitter flakes, I suppose you call them, in purple. I've got some powder. This is like a mica powder. It is a purple, but this one also glows in the dark apparently. So this one has also got like the UV effect. So that'll be interesting. So I'll only need a little bit of the powder because I'm only going to be mixing a small amount of resin. I've put a small amount of clear resin into each of these small pouring cups. Now I'll put a bit of the flakes I think in there as well. Now these are very, very fine and they seem to, when you disturb them, they will go everywhere. So I'm just going to be very slowly just putting a very small amount in with the tweezers. I've tried to tip them in one other time and a whole heap came out. I think that was the skull I did that in. So after that, I've been very cautious of how I use these flakes because they do tend to stick to each other and just come out very quickly. So I need to move a little bit faster. My resin is starting to set a little bit in this small container. Okay, and next I will be adding some alcohol ink. This is just a green alcohol ink I bought off AliExpress. And I'm just going to put give it a little bit of shake and put a couple of drops, not much more than that, of colour into the actual resin. Everything's starting to stick. And give that one a stir as well. Now I'm not 100% sure why this particular piece of resin started to set rather quickly, but you can see it's starting to sort of clag up. So I'm just working a little bit faster here, popping that, scooping that into the mould. I'm going to put the nice purple tones and glowy, glittery up top part of my Z, and then I'm going to add just my green, which is sort of an interesting texture at the moment, into the base of it and see how that goes. This will probably become a problem later on, but it's not like it's not resolvable. So you can see it's very glunky, but we will press on. I can push that in to the mould and hopefully I can get a pour out of that little bit of resin. Once it's actually pushed in along the sides and edging and so forth, it should sort of self-level, I guess, into there, which it has done to a degree. Now I'm just going to give the torch a quick zap over, not too much because there wasn't too many bubbles, but there was one or two just there I wanted to get out before it set. Wiping down the mould once again. Trying to keep everything nice and tidy. Save a lot of cleanup later on. I just use baby wipes for that as well. Now my next letter, I will be using some more mica powder. And this one here is also a glow in the dark powder and is a blue. So I'm going to put, I've now separated 2 tubs of clear resin once again, and I'm adding my additives, which is the powder, into one, and the other one I will add some blue transparent alcohol ink into that one. So I'll just give it a little bit of a stir up and a shake and add a couple of drops as well. There we go. So this one is going to be the letter S mould, and I'm going to do a blue for this person because that was what they requested, basically. Now I'm stirring both the ink, in this case, well into the resin. That takes a little bit of time, and then I'm going to grab just another paddle and give that powder a good stir into the resin as well. Making sure I mix both of these very thoroughly to get good distribution of colour throughout my resin. Otherwise I might get some patchy interesting shapes and colours, that could be cool too, but I want a nice solid colour for this one, nice and smooth. So a good mix up, and now I've got a good nice transparency clear blue, and that's just what I'm after. Now once I do a pour, I'm going to decorate the top with some of those. They are actually a leaf shape and a nice gold with sort of a Aurora Borealis coating. So first in I'm going to pour this is the mica powder mix. This is the glow in the dark sort of powder. I'm going to put that on the top half of the S. Now I find these little cups really good, these little silicone cups, because they're nice control. I can sort of manipulate the pour really well, especially on smaller projects like this. I'll just grab the other cup now and add that. This is the alcohol ink blue. There's not a lot of difference with them, but one will glow and one won't, of course. And they will sort of blend into each other nicely. Whoops, I'm dripping. I'll have to clean that up in a minute. Yeah, so that one will blend nicely through hopefully about the middle of the letter is what the plan is. So I'm just pouring from each end just so it can slowly push along. I'll see, that looks pretty full now, so I think that one's pretty right. I'll just clean up that mess in a minute, but I will just top that a little bit more around that section, and that should be perfect. It's much easier just to go a little bit slower and just add as you want rather than have an over pour in your mould. So that's why I'm just taking my time there. A little flash of the lighter just to get a couple of bubbles that might be sitting on top. And that one's pretty much good to go. I'll clean up that little mess there. Again, just using a baby wipe. Now that that's settled, I'm going to add some of these beautiful leaves. I'm just using a tweezer to just gently layer them on top of that resin. And once I've got them just where I want, here and there, just along the S shape, just dropping them in, and then I can come along and just give them a little bit of a little tap with the tweezers just to make sure they're in place on the resin and they'll stay stuck basically because they're just sitting on top. So once I go around, I'll just be going around the S and adding those at this point. There we go. So back to what I have left on the table. Now I actually had a little bit more resin left over, So I decided I'm going to do a bonus letter today. So once again, I've cleaned these little cups and I've now put some clear resin into each of those. And now I'm going to add some of these rose gold flakes. They are much the same as the gold ones I used on the letter A, but these of course are a nice rose gold colour. So there's one big huge sheet in here. I think I'll just break a little bit off because I don't need that much. I'll put the rest aside for now. And I will then again mix these through so I can get a nice, a broken sort of flake look through the clear resin. So that's what this one's going to have in it. Just clear resin and rose gold flakes in that container or cup. Now in the other one, other little container or cup, I'm going to put some of the purple. So I thought this was really pretty. Glow powder again, this is the glowing one. So I'm going to put a little spoon of that. And then I will always make sure I put my lids on my biker powders because that stuff will be terrible to have spilt everywhere. And I'm going to give this one a bit of a stir as well. Really thoroughly to get a nice good cover of colour, as you can see there. Always scraping around the sides and getting a good mix. Lovely. It's very pretty, that colour actually. That's really beautiful. It looks lovely with the rose gold. It's a nice choice. So the next part will be to pour this into the mould. And for my bonus letter, I'm going to use the letter K, which happens to be in the same vicinity of all the rest of them. First, I'm going to add a little bit down here in the bottom half of the K, just because I want some colour down the bottom, and then I wanted the the rose gold, I should say, flakes across the top in that clear section there of the top part of the K. So I'm going to try and do like a half and half design for this one as well, but this time it's going to be using the flakes and then a colour. So adding a little bit on top and then a little at the bottom and then again at the top, I'm able then to fill the mould up to where I need it and get a good distribution of each colour I want to add to this particular pour. And I'm really happy how well these two mesh. They look really nice together. And yeah, the end result's going to be awesome. Now just adding a little bit of extra colour just to push them up together and a bit of a flick with the flame just to make sure there's no bubbles, and of course a little wipe just to make sure everything's nice and tidy. And there we go. That is pretty much the 4 pours done now, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to let them set overnight and we'll come back the next day and we'll demould these. Alright guys, it's the next day and these are ready to come out of their mould, and I'm really kind of excited to see how some of them turned out. This one feels beautiful and smooth. I really love how the S has turned out. I think it's going to be one of the best ones out of it, honestly. I'm a bit concerned about the Z, but oh well, we'll see how that one turns out shortly. Let's pop out the letter A. This is the nice gold one we poured. And we'll see how this one turned out. Now it's just clear resin. I just put a clear resin pour and just added, as I said, those gold elements. So it's nice and clear. Definitely sat into the mould nice and firmly. But it's come away beautifully. Look at that. That is a really nice pour. It's nice and clean. It has nice edges. It's got like nearly a 3D effect to it, which is really awesome to see with all the gold, how the flakes gone through it. So this is it's really pretty. You can't see the birds a lot in here at the moment, but they are definitely there, and if you look for them, you can see them. But yeah, that's come up really lovely. Alrighty. Next we're going to actually go a bit out of order here. I'm actually going to pop out the bonus letter, which is the K, and see how that one turned out. That again has a beautiful smooth top. The blend of the flakes, how they've moved over time, it just gives a really interesting effect on this side. The other side you can see is more colour, but the front here, this looks awesome. You can sort of see the depth of the flakes going through it as well. So this has a little bit of a 3D cool effect as well. Now we'll demould the S. Now this one just had a beautiful smooth top, and I was looking really forward to opening or demoulding this one. And yeah, absolutely 100% happy with how this piece has turned out. So this letter is beautiful and smooth. Those leaves have sunk in just enough into the resin. Oh, I've got a little flake in there from somewhere. That must have come from the K or something. I must have dropped it. Anyway, but yeah, this has got a little bit of texture because they're sitting on top, but they're also sunken in enough so they will sit nicely into that pour, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Now, my little problem child, number Z, it stayed quite sticky for a length of time as well, so I'm not sure what was going on because it is all the same resin. I'm not sure if it's just the additives or how I was mixed it, or maybe I've got a little bit of unmixed resin caught up on the side, and that's why that one was a little bit funny. That can happen if you haven't mixed your resin properly, so I'm wondering if I've done something like that and not realised I've got a little bit of unmixed resin because it was a little bit sticky and a bit gluggy in that particular bit, and it ran around the back, as you can see here on the other side of the mould. It even leaked through a little bit. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure what happened there, but I'm thinking maybe there's a little bit of unmixed resin has gotten in that green and caused it to go a bit weird. Caused a bit of a bubble sensation at the end there, so I've got a little chunk. So I'll put a bit of UV resin in the end of this one and patch that up, so it's fixable. It's fine. I can dome this up, add a bit of extra resin of UV resin, I should say, into the back of it, and I'll be able to use that piece as well. So not always does everything work out perfectly. I got 3 wonderful letters, and I got this Z, which, well, it gives me something else to do. So all in all, I got some beautiful resin pours out of that mould. The mould itself was wonderful. I do like this resin. It's a beautiful clear resin. I didn't have trouble with bubbles, etc. And I'm really quite happy with that one that it turned out. So this was a lot of fun making these letters. I will turn these ones into keychains. And I hope you enjoyed watching the process of me pouring some letters in resin today. Until next time, guys, have a wonderful crafty day, and thanks for watching. Bye now.